Whatever it may be. Do you think actual fascism deserves peace?
Do I think actual fascism deserves peace?
Yep.
Like peace as in like you don't go about fighting them physically, right?
Do you think you can peacefully get out of fascism? Mussolini, Hitler, do you think people could have peacefully gotten their way out of those fascist regimes?
No, I don't.
Okay, so you agree that fascism should be fought. You agree with that statement?
Yes.
Okay. What is fascism?
It's a ideology that has like a dictator, a dictatorial leader. That's like big on like nationalism.
Okay, so there are 14
societal norms and stuff like that.
Yeah, there are 14 characteristics of fascism that exist. I tend to use the 14 created by Lawrence Britt. We could even do Umberto Eco or Stanley Pyle, whichever one you want to use. But they're all generally the same. Okay, so let's just really quickly. This will be a quick. I swear to God, it'll be quick. Characteristic number 1: powerful and continuing nationalism. Absolutely is a characteristic of the right, especially the Trump administration right now. They are absolutely engaged in powerful and continuing nationalism. They think that America first should be the only policy. They've gone so far as to remove aid that we sent. They don't even think we should be sending aid to other countries. This is number 1. Fascist regimes tend to make constant use of patriotic mottos, slogans, symbols, songs, and other. Oh my God! Sorry, hold on. Let me move it over here. So I can see all of it. And other paraphernalia. Flags are seen everywhere, as are flag symbols on clothing and in public display. This is MAGA to a T. Point number 1. So I'm not going to ask you to agree with me on anything. Can you what?
Okay, fine. Continue.
Okay. So
continue. I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
That's fine. All I want to acknowledge is that point number 1 of fascism is being done by the Trump administration. Specifically, it's being done by the MAGA movement. They are ultra nationalistic. They use patriotic mottos, make America great again, keep America great. They use symbols, slogans, songs. This is heavily done by the Trump administration. MAGA specifically. Point 2, disdain for the recognition of human rights. Because of fear of enemies and the need for security, the people in fascist regimes are persuaded that human rights can be ignored in certain cases because of need. This is directly happening with the Trump administration. This goes into CCOT. Trump administration doesn't care about human rights. Alligator Alcatraz, CCOT, all of these places where they're violating human rights, right? Because they think it's more important to get rid of immigrants, an enemy that they've labeled of the state. It's more important to get rid of these people than to make sure that these people's human rights are not violated. They were found in violation by the Supreme Court to be violating the rights of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, directly violating his civil rights and liberties, right? The Supreme Court said this is illegal. That's what you are doing is illegal. They don't care. They continue to do it anyway. So point number 2, absolutely happening. We can look at it when Trump and MAGA are trying to force homeless people into camps. They're trying to force them into camps or send them to prison. That is going against their human rights. Forcibly removing somebody and pushing them into a camp, whether you claim the camp is helpful or not, that's going against their human rights. So I'd say number 2, they're absolutely meeting point number 2. So that's 2 of 14. They are absolutely meeting. Point number 3, identification of enemies/scapegoats as a unifying cause. This is the exact way they engage against immigration and the exact way they engage against trans people. And now it's the full way they are engaging against the left. Donald Trump says the left is the enemy. Laura Loomer, the left is the enemy. Nancy Mace, it's the left. Tim Miller, we won't even get into the fucking crackpot shit he's been saying. These are all ways that they are identifying an enemy. And instead of saying, hey, American people, let's focus on the things that America has wrong with it and try to fix these issues for you that are systemic, that are absolutely bred from us as the wealthy class taking all your money. But no, let's say it's let's just be vague and say it's the left. So now we can say anybody on the left. They're literally trying to make people labeled as terrorists for supporting trans people. Specifically in the documentation that they're trying to push through the FBI, it would label anyone that thinks that an organization or an entity is harming trans people. The person that thinks that the harm is being done would be labeled a terrorist. This number 3, they are absolutely doing it. Absolutely engaging in number 3. Number 4, supremacy of the military. Okay. Now this one, you could make probably an argument that they're not doing. Number 4 is even when there are widespread domestic problems, the military is given a disproportionate amount of government funding and the domestic agenda is neglected. And now, while it might not be the military, I think they are militarizing police. ICE has been heavily militarized. The National Guard, in fact, they are doing this, and that's why the National Guard is being sent into cities like Chicago, like DC, like California, even at the express denial of the people who are supposed to be making that decision. The Trump administration lost the lawsuit. The Supreme Court sided with California that the Trump administration did not have the authority to federalize the National Guard into California, and they did it anyway. This, again, supremacy of the military. So point number 4, absolutely doing. Okay? So 4 of the 14 tenets of fascism, I would argue the Trump administration completely engaging in. Now, I'm not telling you, again, to tell me whether or not they are. I'm just pointing out that they are doing it. Number 5, rampant sexism. The government of fascist nations tend to be almost exclusively male-dominated, which this government is. There's hardly any women in the government. Under fascist regimes, traditional gender roles are made more rigid, opposition to abortion is high, as is homophobia, and anti-gay legislation and national policy. 100% they're doing this shit. Abortion rights were stripped away because Donald Trump packed the Supreme Court. We see it when it comes to the fact that they're so focused on the nuclear family. They want women back in the home. They don't think women should be the ones in the workforce. They think they should be at the home. We can see this from Charlie Kirk, again, TPUSA, whose whole goal is to push people towards the right, specifically MAGA, told women, girls at college campuses, he told girls in high school that they should only be going to college to find husbands. Point number 5, they're absolutely doing as well. The homophobia is there. The anti-gay legislation. There has been, as of right now, I don't even know how many right now. As of right now, I think it's 500 plus anti-gay legislation have been written this year. Anti-LGBTQ legislation. So very clearly they're doing number 5. Number 6, controlled mass media. Sometimes the media is directly controlled by the government, but in other cases, the media is indirectly controlled by government regulations or sympathetic media spokespersons and executives. Censorship, especially in wartime, is very common. We've already seen this. With Brendan Carr, the head of the FCC, telling ABC if they didn't punish Jimmy Kimmel, they would crack down on ABC. This is the government quite literally trying to control media. Then we see it in J.D. Vance. When J.D. Vance is hosting Charlie Kirk's show after he passes, that is state-run media. Donald Trump has said, and I quote, a paraphrase, but he said that if you are on TV and you say anti-MAGA things or you disagree with him, you should be taken off the air. It should be against regulations. We see this when we look at the fact that the Pentagon, under Pete Hegseth, said that any independent reporting has to only be approved government reports. You cannot say anything or you will lose your media credentials and you can no longer come and report on the Pentagon if you say something we did not approve. This is state-controlled media. Absolutely. So that's 6. So the Trump administration is doing 6 of the 14 tenets of fascism. So they're almost at least at half. Next up, we're going to look at point number 7, which is obsession with national security. Fear is used as a motivational tool by the government over the masses. Now, you could make an argument, maybe they aren't doing this. I would claim that they are when we look at, again, the federalization of the National Guard. When we look at the fact that they're trying to make out Donald Trump, yes, thank you. Donald Trump is sitting over here constantly going, look at all the crime. There's all this crime. It's happening in Chicago. Chicago's got all this crime. Even though when we look at the actual numbers, crime rates have been steadily on the decline since the 90s, save for 2 major spikes, the 2008 financial crisis and COVID, which both financial crises lead to an increase in crime. We kind of just know this when we look at like basic understanding of like how crime affects. But it doesn't matter because they're painting the picture that crime is. Donald Trump came on and said, hey, we put the National Guard in DC for 2 weeks, and it was the first time in DC history no murders have happened. False. It's not the first time that's ever happened. And false again that no murders happened during that time. I'm pretty sure there was like a couple murders that happened. They just hadn't been reported yet. So this also incorrect. So I would say if you want to give them 7, you could make the argument they're not engaging in. Sure. I won't like hard sell you on that. Number 8, religion and government are intertwined. Governments and fascist nations tend to use the most common religion in the nation, Christianity, as a tool to manipulate public opinion. Religious rhetoric and terminology is common from government leaders. See Tim Miller, his entire speech at Kirk's memorial reads like religious psychosis. His entire speech, their entire thing is about pushing Christian nationalism. And we know this to be the case because Tim Miller and Brendan Carr helped write fucking Project 2025, and the whole thing they talk about in Project 2025 is moving back to a religious nation. They want America to be a Christian nation. They want America to abide by their ideals of Christianity, not the ideals of Christianity, mind you, because they've never fucking read Matthew 25. They've never opened the sheep and the goats. They're not trying to abide by those. They're trying to abide by their rules of Christianity. So I would say number 8, absolutely happening. So as of this moment, at least half of the 14 tenets of fascism are being engaged in by the Trump administration. At least half of them. Whether you agree with me or not, I think I've been pretty straightforward in giving you direct examples of them doing this. Point number 9. Corporate power is protected. The industrial and business aristocracy of a fascist nation often are the ones who put the government leaders into power. See fucking Elon Musk. Donald Trump would have never won the election without Musk and Twitter. It literally could not have happened. Musk, it's already been shown that Musk went on a concrete misinformation campaign on Twitter, employing bots, thousands of them, to post, to share made up stories. These internal documents have been somebody, a whistleblower came out from X that said they did that. But even if we want to say, well, maybe not Musk, look at the fact that at Trump's inauguration, most of the people sitting next to him were the most wealthy men in the fucking planet, most of whom are like heavy deep into AI. If you want to look at corporate powers protected, look at Peter Thiel, look at Curtis Yarvin. Look at the fact that these two men, who are two of the richest men on the fucking planet, who have quite literally said time and time again, over and over, that democracy needs to end. They've said that America should be like a corporation with a CEO sitting at the head who does not get voted in, by the way. The CEO who just gets placed into power and has that power. They've said that we need to end elections. They've said all of this shit, like in podcasts, out in public, on all of this shit. Right? These two, the only reason JD Vance is even his running mate is because Peter Thiel brought JD Vance to Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago after JD Vance had called Trump Hitler and said, hey, Donald, meet JD Vance. He should be your running mate. Like, this is number 9. It's corporate power. They want to consolidate power for corporations. This is why the FTC has lost a bunch of power it's had. This is why the Consumer Protection Bureau has lost power that it's had. The Consumer Protection Bureau, by the way, the only government agency that was putting money back into the pockets of Americans, stripped of power so that we couldn't sue corporations anymore. So that, well, not that we couldn't sue, but we couldn't sue them and have the Bureau helping us with those lawsuits so we could get our money back. So 9, definitely doing. So at most, they're doing 8 of the 14 so far. We could say maybe they're not doing 1, but they're doing 8 of 14. So at least right now it's 8-1. 10, labor power is suppressed because the organizing power of labor is the only real threat to fascist government. Labor unions are either eliminated entirely or severely suppressed. They've been doing this for fucking ever. Look at just the way Jeff Bezos, by the way, a massive supporter of Donald Trump, look at how Amazon has suppressed their unions at Amazon. We all know Amazon's a shitty company to work for. We all know that they suppress you. Like, this is all the time. Project 2025 has stipulations in it for how we can get rid of union power. Like, this isn't even remotely close, right? So I'm going to say definitely doing 10. So that's what, 9 of the 14 that they're doing? At least 100%. 11, disdain for intellectuals in the arts. Donald Trump literally took over the Kennedy Center dropped the person who was in charge. Now, yes, a president can do this, but he dropped the person in charge because he didn't like the fucking shit they were making. I would also argue that suppression of the arts, right, and disdain for intellectuals comes into veins in a lot of different places. This is why fucking Donald Trump never went on a hard-hitting fucking broadcaster's thing when he was doing interviews. He would go to fucking Aiden Ross and Joe Rogan and all of these other people who are not intellectual people. They're fucking podcasters. And this is part of, by the way, Peter Yarvin and Peter Thiel and Curtis Yarvin's plans is to hook the masses with podcast bros. They've admitted to this. They've done all of this. It's happened over and fucking over and over and over and over again. You can see how they demolish anything that is not a joke they believe should be happening. It's the way they fucking did it with Jimmy Kimmel. He made a joke that Trump didn't like. Look at how Trump, every fucking SNL bit that came up in, he would show up on Twitter. I don't know what the fuck the man was doing up at 3 a.m. every morning, probably shitting out the fucking massive amounts of double quarter pounders he eats, but like on Twitter, complaining about SNL. They want to make it so that anytime there's a gay person in any piece of media, oh, this isn't real art, this is blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to say they're definitely doing 11. 12, obsession with crime and punishment. We both know I don't even have to go into that based on the stuff we've already said. We know we don't have to. Now, remember, they only care about crime and punishment when it's for the people they don't like. Because, again, Donald Trump absolutely has evidence that he had 7 co-conspirators who helped him try to overturn the election. They don't care. They don't care that Donald Trump himself was fucking, that Donald Trump himself has 34 fucking felonies. They don't give a shit about any of that. But anytime they went on this tirade about Kilmar Abrego Garcia being a criminal with 0 evidence and no court saying that he was. The only person saying he was Kristi Noem, but she presented none of that fucking evidence to the Supreme Court. When the Supreme Court said, why shouldn't we keep him in the country? She said, because we don't want him here, basically. Actually, her exact reasoning per the Supreme Court ruling was that because he was already gone, it was too hard to get him back. That was the exact reasoning. And the Supreme Court would have taken, he was a criminal. We have evidence of him committing a crime, except they had none. So I'm saying 12, definitely. So at the very least, 11 of 12 so far. There are 2 more. One is rampant cronyism and corruption. You and I would hope, are in the exact same vein of cronyism. Our government is controlled and run by billionaires. It is Donald Trump barely makes decisions. Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Curtis Yarvin, Mark Zuckerberg, fucking how many others we need to list. They are the ones engaging in this. Not just MAGA, by the way. There are billionaire Democrats. I think it's the daughter of Steve Jobs, who claims to be a Democrat, who is helping fund Peter Thiel and Curtis Yarvin's fucking nonsense shit, right? Because the cronyism is separate of party lines. They don't actually give a shit, Democrat or Republican. They just care wealthy. So they are definitely engaging in number 12. Not even close. And then 14 is fraudulent elections. Sometimes elections in fascist nations are a complete sham. Other times elections are manipulated by smear campaigns against or even assassination of opposition candidates, use of legislation to control voting numbers or political district boundaries, and manipulation of the media. Fascist nations also typically use their jurisdiction to manipulate or control elections. You can believe all you want that when it comes to fucking Donald Trump and the 2020 election, that it was stolen from him. But there has been 0 credible evidence. Nothing was presented to courts. Rudy Giuliani, his personal lawyer, said that they should not be believed about this. When taken to court, he said, well, yeah, no, we don't have any actual proof. We just want you to look into it. There was no proof. Even when specific evidence had been given to show the opposite, Donald Trump went on a campaign to say, no, look at what you did. And then when an election happened, and that election was being certified, Donald Trump engaged in a conspiracy with 7 co-conspirators, 7, to make it so that fake electors would be sent to Mike Pence. Mike Pence has admitted to this. The electors have admitted to this. Giuliani was caught doing this, Giuliani was one of the co-conspirators, sent to Mike Pence, told Mike Pence, certify this. Not the actual electors that people voted for. Certify what I'm sending you. This is Donald Trump willfully trying to engage in a fraudulent election. He didn't get caught that time because Mike Pence had a fucking spine. You think anybody in this? JD Vance doesn't have a goddamn spine. And now, not only are they trying to redistrict, Texas is trying to redistrict to get rid of Democratic seats, and people will fucking say constantly and go, oh, but Texas, why? But California's doing the same thing. No, California's rules are they can redistrict if they hold a vote and the vote says we can now redistrict. So that's what California did. They said, we're going to hold a vote, and if that vote passes, then we can redistrict. Texas said, we're just going to redistrict. They are absolutely engaging in 14. We see it in them trying to pass voting legislation with voter ID, even though even up to the Supreme Court level, voter ID policies have been shown to negatively disparage low-income houses and low-income individuals and people who are not able to adequately access this ID. So we've seen this. We've seen them engage in manipulation. Again, look at the whistleblower shit that came out of Twitter with Elon Musk. We've seen all of this. So on its face, if we want to be charitable, the Donald Trump administration is absolutely engaging in 13 of the 14 characteristics of fascism. Now, I'm not going to ask you, or I'm not going to expect you, Kirk, to answer me in a way that you agree. But the question that I pose is if an administration is committing 13 of the 14 tenets of fascism, is this not a fascist administration?
Out of the 14, I mean, yeah, you make a compelling argument. I don't think we have the time. I could make the argument for the Biden administration and on the flip side. So if this one's fascist and it meets 13 of the 14 qualifiers, then I could make the same argument that the previous administration had either the same number of qualifiers or maybe one or two less or one more. And then the rhetoric that since it's a fascist, dictatorship, then it should be met with violence. And then the uprising from the left side of the field is, justified, and the killing and murder of people in order to overthrow this fascist regime, because you can't peacefully coexist with fascists, and then labeling people that they do not agree with as fascists as an excuse to politically silence them or physically silence them is the argument I would make.
Yeah, I'm going to say you absolutely can.
It's very dangerous.
I won't deny that the Biden administration absolutely engaged in some of this, because I think America just at its core is fascist, right? So I won't deny this, but I think the whether they did or don't, you still have to admit that the Donald Trump administration has engaged in bare minimum 13 of the 14 characteristics of fascism. Cut everything else. So let's say fascists don't deserve violence. Let's say we should peacefully protest, and that's how we should all do anything. Do you acknowledge that of these 14 tenets put forth by PhD studied fascist historians who have studied people like Mussolini, Hitler, Franco, I pulled up the same thing you pulled up. Yeah. Oh, the Lawrence Britt one. Okay, cool. Would you agree that the Donald Trump administration is engaging in bare minimum 13 of these 14 characteristics?
I don't agree with you on some of them. I do agree with you on a few of them. The ones that you clearly pointed out, like you hope that I agree with. I do agree with, but I didn't argue with you. I was letting you speak.
Hey, thank you all for watching this video. If you don't know me, I'm Jovan Bradley. I'm a leftist content creator who does debates, political commentary, gaming, and more. If this is your first video, thanks for sticking to the end, and I hope you subscribe. I post videos daily, and there are hundreds of past debates on my page for you to enjoy. Thank you to all of my YouTube members. Your continued support helps me create as much as I can. Consider joining. A membership starts at $2.99 and gets you access to our community Discord, early access to videos, and more. Shout out to my Tier 4 members, Ovaltine, Sylvia Snow, Bamji, Emery Imogene, Ayla Ursus, Zurith Moonpaw, Vel, Kelsey K, Jake Gorshander, Matthew Holloway, Kazim, Vampy, Yemye, and Dragon Nerd. Your continued support goes a long way to me continuing the fight for equity, justice, and education. Thank you again for watching.